this computer. My heart always gets a little like
I know.
faster when we start getting
That, and then you hear that lady recording in progress. I don't know if that even comes out in the recording, but I actually have no idea.
No, no, it doesn't. But
Oh,
it's it's like it's so scary as fuck because it's like the same voice, it's the AI voice, and it's like recording in progress,
and
and you're
it's
like,
loud. It's loud. It's like commercials, man. You ever
mhm.
watch commercial? Well, of course, who doesn't? But it's just
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
the show is at like a 5 and the commercial's at 20. It doesn't make any sense, man. I don't want to hear about your washing, your cleaning detergent really loud. I don't want to hear about it, okay?
And that's a big, that's one thing I didn't realize with like YouTube videos that it's a big thing is like making sure your audio is like regulated and it's like for me it's like there's a difference between like like increasing and decreasing the volume and then decreasing it in like your video edit. Like that's a
Yeah.
complete difference and it's like I never noticed that until I actually started doing it.
Yeah. But for the most part, it's not too bad, right? Your videos are good. They come out fine. They come out great. So,
I was gonna ask you, and as like I is the sound good in all like all your videos,
yeah.
all the videos you used to listen to? Okay,
Yeah. Yeah,
that's
it
good.
it always comes out good. Well, then again, we use software, we use programs, so it
Yeah.
helps regulate it a little bit too. It's not
Hmm.
like a raw phone video, you know what I mean? Where it could be just all
Yeah.
over the place.
And that's one thing I want is like an actual microphone, like not like big old microphone, but a little microphone I clip right here. Because on
Ah,
like
yeah,
some of my vlogs and stuff, like
yeah.
on the ones I want to start doing explanation videos. But what I found is like doing it on the phone or doing it even in my microphone is like nah, because as I don't want the microphone like in the caption. I just want something small out of the way, that can still pick up my voice, right?
There's a lot of I mean, one day I would like to do like yoga videos, and that's what they use. They
Mm.
use that too, so they can talk to the audience
Okay.
during a flow. But
Okay.
that's in the future, man. That's in the
Oh yeah. Dude, those would be awesome. I freaking love yoga videos.
they're super helpful, man. Again, it's the whole thing with meditation, breathing. People think yoga is all about the stretching and stuff, and it's not. That's not even top three. The stretching is just whatever. If you don't have the meditation, if you're not breathing right, if you're not doing like a slow, if your body's not relaxed, you'll never stretch anyway. All right. It's like tugging on the tightest rubber band you can ever imagine. It's just not gonna work. But you gotta relax. You gotta sit there and you gotta focus on yourself, on your body, you know? Um, and hey, I don't do this no more, man. I don't smoke no more, but yoga while high was crazy. It was the most euphoric experience ever, man, because it's like you don't I'm telling you, you're doing like especially if you're doing strength yoga, man, when you're using your body, your body weight, your muscles to hold you up in positions and things like that, you don't feel a thing, man. But now that I experienced that, that's how I want to feel now. Like I don't smoke no more, so I want to be able to feel like get that sensation by just by being sober,
Hmm.
right? And I every time I do it, I get there slowly, slowly, inch and inch closer and closer to being able to be at that zone, right? Um, and again, repetition, anything, repetition. The more you do it, it doesn't matter how bad you are, you will get better and it will come, which sometimes it takes people a while to learn, for sure.
And that's the same thing. I have the same feeling with alcohol too, is like so many people around me are drink alcohol, I mean excessively, right? I
Yeah.
just to feel good, just to feel energetic in the moment, just to feel and like I've gone so long without it and practiced so much of cultivating a joyous attitude in myself and also an energetic attitude of myself
Yeah.
that it's like I don't need alcohol to have a good time.
Yeah.
I have a good time because I have a good time.
Yeah. And it's something that's, we were all very young once, you know what I'm saying? Before, well, not before because we're law-abiding citizens, but we definitely drank to excessiveness, some of us, when we were 21, and once we could start drinking legally. And I myself was definitely an excessive drinker, man, to the point where I would even use it to calm myself, you know, or to get over something, which is not good. So don't do that.
Mhm.
Uh, but exactly to your point, and it talked about this in The Power of Now, how we use drugs, we use um, externals to shape our reality, to create a reality that is otherwise not created within your own self. And I think that is a dangerous, dangerous thing, exactly for what you said. If you can't be authentic without alcohol or without smoking, or you need that to alter something in your mind to make you judge differently, to have different judgments of yourself and the way you portray yourself, life's going to be kind of unfulfilling, because what happens when you don't have that, right? What are you going to do? One of the reasons why I'm glad I stopped drinking a lot and stopped smoking is because it allowed me, I mean, I miss it. I'm not gonna lie, I miss smoking, but but it allowed me to really sit there and just be like, damn, can I? No, I want to be able to face whatever situation I'm in, to be present in whatever situation I'm in by myself with my own mind and my own spirit. That's important. And I think everyone can get there. I really do. I think as long as people recognize that they do that, it changes. There's a lot of people who I've known, especially within the faith of Christianity, who have given up a lot of those things, drinking, things like that, because they truly needed to repent and be better, right? And now they live a more full life because they don't need it. And it's so true. So I'm happy for you, man. Good stuff, Matt. That's what I'm talking about. That's how you
I've
do it.
never been an alcoholic or anything like that. Whenever I was a teenager, it was more not drinking regularly, but when I drank, it was like blackout. You know? It was to forget. I
Yeah,
drank to
it's
forget. And the at least for me right now, I live my life in a way where I don't want to forget anything, even the painful things.
mm,
So I don't have use for alcohol. But going back to like what you were saying with weed, I find it very, I just noticed this. I find it funny how like the culture behind weed is kind of like anti-establishment, like almost kind of uh to free yourself of from work, from the stresses in life, from job and government.
yep.
But like exactly what you were saying, it's not freeing
No,
because as
no.
you are shackling yourself to that drug. And if you don't have that drug, well, you're gonna want it because you're addicted to it.
Yeah.
So are you really free? No, you're just free to do everything else besides the drug of your choice.
Yeah, and they say marijuana is not addictive. And maybe, and I don't have the science behind that, but I can tell you what's addictive. It's habits, right? So you create a habit, you do it every day to the point where your body starts doing it for you. Next thing you know, so I started late. I started weed when I was like 28, 29, because I went to an acupuncturist and he was like, dude, you need to relax. And I was like, all right, so let me start smoking weed. I just decided to give it a try. You know what I'm saying? It was legal at this point. I was just like, hey, let's go for it. And yeah, at first it was all right. I started with the weed pen thing, and then I went to the flower afterwards. But hey, I'm not gonna lie, like it felt good. It was cool. Like I was like, oh man, this is a different feeling. I'm chilling, you know what I mean? And whatever. And then it got to the point where I would just keep doing it every day, to the point where I couldn't start my day without it. You know what I'm saying? I loved going on my porch and just smoking one up. But I don't love the feeling anymore. I didn't love the feeling anymore. And instead, in fact, smoking made me more stressed. it just made me stressed. It just made me put me in my head a lot. It made me sit there and do nothing and then think about the fact that I'm doing nothing, So, and then I was like, I suck, dude. I'm a failure. I can't get off this. And I was just like, yo, it's not the weed, but it was the habit, man. It was just like I had created a rhythm and a lot of it's just like the harmonic rhythm, you know what I mean? A rhythm that cannot be stopped. An object in motion stays in motion. So if you keep doing the same thing all the time, you're going to keep doing it. And I feel for people. I feel empathetic for those who have been smoking since they were like 16. And now it is just a part of their life. Now there are very high functioning people who smoke who are very successful. I mean, look at Snoop Dogg. I mean, Snoop Dogg is one of the most successful people in the world. And he smokes, but I don't know if he was smoking a lot when he was younger. You know what I'm saying? And he had other external things that drove him to inspired him. He had himself, he was an outlier. But I'm thinking about people who, like myself, where smoking was just not doing it for us, man. Like it's just a habit. We just do it and then we waste time. So I don't think marijuana is a bad thing. I think the fact that it's kind of legalized, it is legalized in a lot of places, is a good is a good thing. I think and that's probably where the anti-establishment thing comes because if you look at about the history of marijuana, it was once a category one drug. It was classified as a hard substance on the long lines of cocaine and heroin and all that other stuff. And a lot of people, especially people of color, were massively incarcerated and their lives destroyed over a green plant, right? So it's good that it's legal. It's good that we got rid of that. However, I think the fact that now the United States, especially whoever's had it legal, is heavily benefiting from the taxes they put onto it and heavily benefiting from the money they gain from it. And it's like a free-for-all for weed now. And I think a lot of people get roped on the habit. And I think that habit is what may cause people to drift a little bit, to not be able to be on their purpose sometimes because they're just smoking weed. All right. There's nothing wrong with the weed. There's nothing wrong with the person. But when you sometimes you put two things together and then it creates a whole new lifestyle that may not be beneficial, right? As it was for me. That's why one of the reasons I stopped. That and the man upstairs told me to stop. So
Yeah,
that was a crazy spiritual awakening he gave me.
yeah.
But
Actually, I know about it, but I don't think the crowd knows about it. Can you elaborate on what happened?
yeah, yeah, absolutely. So when it was last year and I had just found Christ. Okay. And I remember in January of last year, I said, Christ will tell me or God will tell me when to stop smoking, but I was smoking. And then I had a dream in April, right? I had a dream that I died, that I was shot and killed after a long night of smoking and doing dumb stuff in some random place with some random shadowy figure in a car that I didn't know. And in that dream, I was smoking, I got in trouble. But before I died, I noticed I was alone. I didn't have anyone with me. I was by myself. And then I got shot in the head, fell on the ground, all that stuff. The crazy part about it is that I was high before I had this dream. So I was smoking, right? And and I was in Arizona at the time with my sister and we no, sorry, I felt it. I felt the dream, man. I felt the blood rushing down my head. I felt the coolness, the very it's almost like a dark chill of death. And then I woke up and I was completely calm. So I prayed about it. I was like, "Oh my goodness, what is happening here?" And then I spoke to my therapist about it the week later. He said it's probably your old self dying, which would make sense because I had made a lot of changes and I was watching my old self die in rebirth of the new me. Um, and then I kind of went with that for a while. And then and then next month in May, I had already said I was going to stop smoking. I don't know why. I just was like, I'm gonna stop smoking. And a friend of mine hit me up and he was like, "Hey, you want to smoke tonight?" And me and this person usually smoke in his car, and we have a laugh. We have a good time. It's just chill. And we watch like whatever, Dragon Ball Z, or we watch the news, or we just talk about life. And so I'm in the car and I'm smoking, and I was like, it's supposed to be the last time. I was like, all right, one more time, I'm done. And there was a moment, after I smoked a little bit, and this individual, we were again in the car, he was sitting there, and he was like on the phone or something with one of his family members, and he had this very like odd laugh, very strange laugh, and he was like cackling about something. And I'm looking at him, and I look back, and then like a tsunami of negative emotions started to come upon me. And I'm telling you, I know when I'm high, and I know when I'm feeling high, and I know that sometimes your mind plays tricks on you. This was not that, because I felt it not here, but I felt it in my heart, man. Like my heart dropped for some reason. And then I realized this was the dream. This was the shadowy, not him as an individual was the shadowy figure, but the shadowy figure was a symbol of just anybody who I'm with doing the things that I'm doing. And I'm here in the car smoking for whatever reason. And so I had to say, hey man, like I gotta go. I went in my house, and like I was just freaking out. So I prayed. I prayed to God, cried, went to my cat, was like, yo, please don't move. Let me pet you. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like going through the motions. I had a very strange night. And I know it's not because I was high. I know it's because it was in my heart. Like that dream, God spoke to me in my dream. And then in my dream, it came true, right? The only part that didn't come true was me getting shot in the head and died and killed. So I'm sitting there, and I'm like, yo, I think he's telling me something, man. Like he's telling me, dude, if you continue to just go down a path of waste of not following me, of not like and me as in God, not following purpose, not following God, whatever, following Christ. If you keep doing these things, yes, you will go down a path that leads you to die alone, killed, whatever you got to call it. So I stopped smoking that day. I said, nope, I ain't gonna smoke. I'm good, man. And some days I miss it. Some days when I feel good, I'm like having a good day. I'm like, man, I could just go for a blunt right now. But you know what? I don't do
And
it.
on the bad days too, huh?
Not on the bad days.
No?
On the
Okay.
bad days. No, on the bad days, I still think about alcohol. But
Oh,
so,
so okay, okay. So it's
because
just
I did that in the past too. But no, other than that, I'm good, man. Um, it allows me to now to fill those spaces with other things that are productive, or just not to do anything to my body like that, you know? So that was the dream. That was the spiritual awakening, and it was good, man. I needed it.
hmm. And so we're not of the same religion and faith and of beliefs. I will say there's something to be said about certain experiences, like the one you've had. And something to say, I think I'm okay with calling it the soul.
Yeah.
Is something with the soul, all that is part of each person, um, because of multiple different experiences. The one you talked about now, and then one from my personal, and then one from actually like scientific. So I'll talk about those two. So mine's not as intense as yours, but there was once. So I was in a similar situation, very depressed, eight months, 2024 from January to August. And then right when I was starting to get out of it, like I was September, October, around that time, I started getting out of it, starting to get my life together. And in this time, my parents, and my family went to Lake Buchanan, just to the beach, to the lake, have a good time. And I'm feeling great. because I was in my depression, I got like this close to killing myself without even knowing it.
Mm.
So, now I'm I'm much more joyful in my life. I'm much more observant. I want to be at the lake. I'm responsive. So at the lake, we're sitting at a bench, and I was reading Tools of Titans by Tim Ferriss, and in the book he asked a bunch of interviewees what their spirit animal is. And I'm like, you know what, screw it, I'll ask my parents. And they all pick cool animals like lion, bear, dog. And they're like, Matthew, what spirit animal are you? And I took like 2 seconds and I said dragonfly. And they all laughed. They all laughed. They're like, "That's not an animal." Are you? I was like, "Are you kidding me? Of course it's an animal. It's an
Yeah, man.
insect." Like
Yeah.
what? What do you mean? They're like, "It's not a real animal. It's not like a dog. It's not like a lion. It's not like a cat." And I'm like, "What's?"
Interesting, man. They were clowning you on this one.
Yeah, I was like, "Oh, dude, insects aren't animals, apparently." Like, I don't understand it. And they're like, okay, give us a real animal. I'm like, whatever, a gopher. Like, because I'm so weird. Whatever. Her. But I still believe dragonfly in here. But what's so interesting, that was Saturday. On Tuesday, I'm working in the yard with my mom. And we see all animals back there. We have like deer that walk by. We see beautiful cardinals. I've seen hawks. I've seen, worms, all that good stuff because we're in the nature. Me and my mom are working, and then we turn around, and we see like a swarm of dragonflies, like
No way.
50 to like 75 dragonflies just swarming around. And I tell you, the only time I've seen a dragonfly like within our area is at the lake, and nowhere near that many, maybe two,
Yeah,
never in our
nothing.
backyard. So that was the first time in like 3 years I've seen a dragonfly. And then to have 50 to 75 dragonflies just randomly going, and it wasn't even me who noticed it. My mom was like, Matthew, you just talked about this like last weekend.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
there's the dragonflies right I hear. I'm like, and I didn't say anything. I didn't say anything because I didn't need to. I don't need to understand what happened. I don't need to know, oh, if it was God or if it was the Tao or the universe or whatever. I just know what happened,
Yeah.
and I'm grateful for it.
It's a when you speak about this story, right? Does it solidify that you're in your soul, your spirit, whatever you call it, that you were being heard by something?
No, I think it's more of we're more interconnected than we think we are.
Yeah, to our
I think that's
surroundings.
what it is.
Yeah.
Um, because that's where kind of our beliefs kind of diverge. I
Hmm.
don't necessarily think there is big G God entity always hearing and listening to us, but I think the universe itself is some kind of divine creation in and of itself.
Yeah.
And I mean that's also God in a sense too, right? That's it's what's so interesting is to read like the Bible, to read like Stoicism with like Marcus Aurelius and his meditations, how he talks about it, to read the Tao Te Ching and to see how every like God or like entity, divine entity they talk about in their respective worlds is so similar.
Yeah.
It's so similar
Yeah.
that it's like really eerie. And you're like, okay, something's going on here.
Hmm.
Something going because like Lao Tzu, the guy who wrote Tao Te Ching, Marcus Aurelius and Seneca, well, specifically Marcus Aurelius.
Seneca
Yes,
talks about God a lot, though.
yes, yes, yes. And then the writers of the Bible as well. They weren't like talking to each other. They
No,
weren't like
no, they were.
they weren't having
Well,
conversations.
they were. I mean, at least with Paul, he was writing letters to different people, but yeah, no, they weren't. They weren't talking to each other. It's to different accounts.
Yeah, yeah. And I don't know how much. I don't know what Lao Tzu was writing, but there was definitely not that much contact between like Rome and China. There was like with the Silk Road and stuff like that, but not enough that Lao Tzu and Marcus Aurelius would be
No.
giving letters to each other. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so it when you see that, when you have experiences like you and me, and then my last one I wanted to talk about was God, I forget his name, and I always wanted to talk about it. But Tim Ferriss has interviewed a doctor who does near-death experiences. That's what
Mm.
he works with, and he's a legit doctor. A university sponsors him, everything like that. And he talks about these near-death experiences, and he gets to a point where he just says, "There's so many of these that I don't know like what to do with them, and I can't explain them. I'm a skeptic, and I can't even explain this."
Yeah.
You know, even with like you being a skeptic on the situation and all that, he's just like, I just don't know. I don't understand it. So with all those like pieces of evidence, it just, I'm trying to think of like a scientific like method, right? How you gather your evidence and all that. That's kind of how my mind works. Or so like you and me's experience, the major philosophers all having a similar kind of thought process and thinking of the world, and then bleeding into the scientific realm where these doctors are just like, I just don't understand what's happening.
Yeah. Yeah.
Makes me think, okay, I don't know what it is, but something's going on. Something's going on.
It's a common thing that it's said that the works of in this case for me, the works of God, maybe for you, works of the universe, the works of force, of nature, as Seneca calls it, right? Everything's according to nature, are way beyond, infinitely beyond all human understanding. That's why no one gets it. That's why no one understands any of the stuff that happens. That's why we say things like there's no such thing as coincidence or everything happens for a reason. This is we boil it down to these just phrases because that's the only way we can grip grip this reality is through language, right? Is through a common phrase. It is what it is. It's like one of the most common phrases of all time. It is what it is. And that's, I guess, a surrender to your surroundings, right? Um,
Or your ignorance.
Say that again.
Or your ignorance.
Or your ignorance. Yeah, it can be both ways. You know what I'm saying? It is what it is because you just don't want to do anything about it, or it is what it is because you can't do anything about it, which is, that's a tough subject to think about when we can't do something about something, right? I mean, I guess we can accept, we can grow, right? We can surrender, we can give up control. I think that's one of the hardest things for people in general is to give up control, especially when it comes to others. Okay. But just like the universe, human beings are also part of nature, meaning we can't control them. We can't control a human being. We can only control ourselves. They like to think that they control us, right? The psychologists that run the world and the rich and everything like that. And maybe at a small, at a brain level, maybe they can. But you can't control fully something that's sentient, something that has a spirit, has its own mind. You can't fully control it. So when someone does something outside of your expectations, there's a common phrase, man, just let it go.
Accept it. Yeah.
Accept it, man. Acceptance is like the hardest thing for a lot of people, myself included, man. Just accepting what happens, right? Stoicism talks about this everywhere, man, everywhere, are just accepting, not just accepting, but what is it? Take a bite out of everything that comes your way. To stand and accept it willingly because life is exactly that. Life is unforeseen. Being alive is having crap thrown in your face and figuring out how to get it off or live with it. I think that's so tough, especially with think about COVID, man. In
Yeah,
2020, in
that's
2020,
wild.
we got hit with one of the for a lot of people, especially young people, with probably the most lifestyle changing things that could have ever happened in our lifetime. All right. Couldn't go see friends, couldn't fly out, had to stay inside. Couldn't use toilet paper, had to use your hands. But well, hopefully you didn't use your hands, but
Just
so hard to wipe your ass. So yeah, I'm like, yo, for a lot of people, man, I mean, think about it. School, young kids couldn't have the benefit of seeing their friends, their classmates. You know what I'm saying? They were blurry, just like that my camera, right? They couldn't see nobody. They had to see this. This was our human interaction, this for a while. Now, I was about 29, 28, 29 at the time. And I had already had a life where I had gone to school, I went to college, I got a lot of human interaction to the point where at that point I was just like, you know what, I'm cool if I don't have it for a while. And then I thought I was cool and then realized I wasn't, as a lot of people probably figured out about themselves. But I feel bad for the kids, man. Their whole lives changed and their parents and the teachers. Education suffered. But you know what? Those people accepted it. I know the teachers for sure had to take a stoic approach to teaching. They had to just sit on the Zoom call, take roll call with people who had no cameras on, so you didn't know if they were there, and they just had to do the best they could. And I talked to a couple teachers who were in that period of time, and they said, man, it was one of the hardest things for them. They had to be creative, like really creative, you know? So life throws crap at you. And it threw a lot of crap at us then. And but we were doing all right, you know what I'm saying? I think that taught a lot of people about themselves. I guarantee you therapist stocks were going up during that time, man. All right, it was a good time to be a therapist. Yeah,
Mhm.
seriously,
And the
seriously.
aftermath as well.
Yeah, and
Absolutely.
the aftermath as well, man, because you know what? Especially for a lot of men, I think we realize that we're struggling, dude. I think we're having trouble with our heads, man. A lot of trouble. And I'm happy that you were able to find an outlet to get yourself into a better state of mind. That's important. Okay. That's important because sometimes we ourselves throw shit in our own faces. And that's usually the smelliest kind. Okay. That's
Yeah.
usually the kind that really stinks, man. When we do it to ourselves. We are our own worst enemy, right? Lucifer and Satan are two different things. I don't know if we talked about this.
Yes.
I think, yeah, we talked about this. Lucifer's the actual fallen angel, and Satan is the enemy. But Satan is us. We are the enemy, okay, to ourselves. We destroy ourselves. And I think um that is that's a war, man. There's a lot of people who are fighting wars within themselves. What a tough thing, man. That's tough to like grasp. That's tough. I know you fought a war with yourself, but talk about that because we were talking about hope. How do you find hope within yourself when you want to destroy yourself or when you involuntarily destroy yourself?
Yeah. Well, I hope because I think maybe we have two different perspectives and views on this. I think uh, I think the only hope worth pursuing is the hope that you create for yourself. And what I mean by that is hope's an inherent desire. So if you desire something externally, it, like you said, Ed, can let us down. It can disappoint us. It can devastate us. And that's what I think I've talked about this many times before. The Auschwitz prisoner or
Yeah.
had when on March 30th, he put his hope in something external. When it didn't happen, he was so devastated he died. But what I find with people who are generate so much hope in life is they generate it themselves. They're the ones, for example, another Auschwitz example. There's this guy, Pilecki. He was a Polish resistance officer who accidentally volunteered himself to go into Auschwitz before even knowing it was Auschwitz.
Well, he had the right mind.
Yeah, but what's so interesting about his story is he gets into Auschwitz, he finds out what's happening, and he does everything to get messages out. But he doesn't get himself out, not yet, for like 2 or 3 years. And what all the prisoners talked about was just seeing like his resilience, his unwavering faith, his like energy and ability to just rely on himself, up to rely on others as well, all to allow others to be part of his resistance as well, knowing that if someone found out he's dead, that created hope for people. That created hope. And it wasn't and from something external, at least it's for our Pilecki, he produced it himself. He had nothing in Auschwitz, but he made something of it.
Yeah.
And that's what you find with Viktor Frankl when within Auschwitz is he was able to go above his situation. And like we were talking about with uh, essentially your external stimuli is different from your reaction, and that it's in the in between where you have the choice, the freedom. There you go. The freedom to do what you want. You might not have a. This is what the 7 habits of highly effective people talks about, which I'm re-listening to. It's
Yeah.
so good.
Good
I
book, man.
forgot.
Yeah. Stephen R. Covey, man, he created a good book, man. That was a great book. He was on point.
Laughs, but uh, yeah, he talks about how it's like Viktor Frankl didn't have a lot of liberty. He didn't have the liberty to do whatever he wanted, but he had the freedom to do whatever he want with what he had,
Yeah.
rather than the guards are thinking that they had no freedom. They just had to be guards. So, or be prosecuting. I'm not saying explaining it the best, but it's it's those people who try to walk the path of virtue,
Yeah.
people who try to walk the path of love
Yeah.
that I find that generate hope. And if you try to find it like all Stoicism talks about, if you try to find hope externally from yourself, you're gonna have a bad time.
It's not going to work 100%.
Mm.
Um, I think hope and faith, right? I never had faith, so I always like, oh, I hope, right? But I like what you were talking about when you said that Victor had a choice. He had freedom of choice, right? So he can choose to look at his situation in a way that was negative, or he can choose to look at his situation in what is the best and the right thing I can do? What is the virtuous way I can do it? Because, and sometimes that's not the best. Sometimes that'll kill you, right? That'll kill you. But like you said, he had hope. He created his own energy where he said, you know what? I'm gonna go off the strength of something that could happen. And that's positive. And that was his strength, that and his own constitution. I think hope really shows that. The hope that good is to come, right? And faith being, you know it's going to come regardless of how it comes. But you were about to say something? I saw your
Yeah,
eye
yeah,
was
yeah.
perking, your
Two
mind was
things.
racing, man. I saw
Yeah,
that.
no, no. Did you read Record of Ragnarok?
I did.
Not all
I
the way through?
I read, nah, just 20.
Okay,
Just
okay, okay, okay. I won't
20.
say anything. So I'll
Yeah,
just go off. And I think then this is where we kind of diverge with our perspectives of hope is
yeah.
I just I th- I don't think there is good to come. I mean, I don't think it's worth I don't think it's worth hoping for something good to come. I think for me, what's worth it is being in the present moment, seeing, okay, what can I do right now? What can I do to best help the people around me, cultivate the relationships? What in this present moment can help me and my future self, not the future self that's going to be the present moment? And how can I help that person? How can I help the world around me? How can I best as be a virtuous person? And I think with you can do all that without the hope of something good happening in the future because
Mhm.
it might not happen. You might I be in the Auschwitz camp for the rest of your days until you die. But what you can do is control what you can do in the present moment.
Yeah. What would you say death is then the good?
What do you mean? Can you explain?
So in certain situations, right, some people they try as best they can to look at the situation brightly, but there's a point where, you know what? Maybe death is the way out. Maybe death is is the good that comes. Um, Seneca talked about the good a lot. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
what is the good, right? The good is not evil. The good is honorable. The good is virtuous. But then he talks about in some chapters the good. I'm sorry, he talks about death. He's saying, is it worth suffering and prolonging your life just to say you're having a longer life or to live in misery or to die? And he says, he says it's okay to die. Like that could be the good. That could be the best thing for you, right? Um,
That's a definitely dangerous idea. But yeah, it's dangerous, but I also understand what he's going for, and I kind of agree. So it's like, yeah, keep going.
Yeah, no, that's it. That's it, man. And I'm thinking people who are in camps or have gone through so much suffering in life that in their minds and again, that's the tough part though, because everyone has a choice, right? They say you can wake up and choose to be happy, and maybe you do, but then again, you're in the worst situation ever to the point where there's nothing good that can come out of it. The only thing good that can come out of it might be death. So would people wish for death, right? I can only imagine that some people in those internment camps were wishing to die, were wanting to die because they saw their family die, or they saw everyone around them burned and mutilated, right? And they're just like, yo, this is hell. And how do you get out of hell? You die sometimes, right? You can create in your mind as much as you want a life of heaven, but if you're living in a hell and everything is out there probably going to kill you, at that point, do you take it upon yourself to kill you first, or to just not even do that, or just embrace death, open your arms to it, and just say, hey, I'm here, take me. You know, what are you going to do? And then but that's again, that's such a hard, there's so many moral things about that I'm a little conflicted on that because
Yeah,
I don't condone suicide, but I also understand and empathize with it.
yeah. I think what like to say, hey, what you're talking about with good, no, no, because I don't think we're very good at understanding what's good or bad for us, nor are, are we going to be certain about what happens after death because no one has come back. Besides, like in your religion with Lazarus and Jesus has come back, but they're dead now.
Well,
I'll
and that's only because they were God. Like Jesus is God
mhm.
in human form. So we can't even do that. None of
Yeah.
us can.
Uh, what I think of death as is the final adventure.
Yeah.
It's a I've thought, and my ideas might change on this too, but you know, when you go on an adventure, you don't know what's going to happen. You don't like, do you really think I know what's going to happen April 2nd when I leave to Europe? No, I have no idea. It's like, yeah, I have a little plan, but like maybe I find a Russian woman and fall in love and have like 20 children. I don't fucking know.
20 children. Wow. Wow. Hey, you do great in the United States,
Yeah,
man. Oh my goodness. Tax season will be kind to you, my friend. 20 kids. Wouldn't that be cool though? You find the love of your life overseas just because you're just there at
yeah,
the right
it would
time.
be awesome. And that's the thing about adventures, right? You just don't know.
No, you don't.
So what is death? It's the unknown. It's not death, but the state of death. It's the unknown.
Yeah.
So it's the final adventure. It might be the most ultimate adventure at the end of the day, but it's the final adventure.
Yeah. You ain't coming
The
back from
final
that.
adventure. You're not coming back from it.
No.
So you better damn well make sure that you're fully ready to enter that final adventure.
Right.
And I don't even mean just your conscience. I mean your heart, I mean your brain, and I mean your body. When I was in my depressive state and was contemplating suicide, my body was not ready to die yet.
Yeah.
It was shutting down because it was telling me, hey, just like Jim Carrey was talking about, I don't like the identity you are wearing right now. I need you to sit down, lay down, not do anything so you can wash away all this identity and bull crap that's going on so you can start anew. I don't want you to die. I, because as whenever you look at the gun, um, your heartbeat races as your lungs get hit, start breathing heavy. Hey, 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 that's your body telling you, dude, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah.
And whenever you fast forward to some people who are ready to die, who are in the older age, who die from just what's age, I think, and just like
Yeah.
natural in their
Natural
sleep,
causes. Yeah.
hey, the body's ready.
Yeah.
The body's ready to go. And I think that's at when you know the pain when it's okay
Yeah.
is when and you finally listen to your body, you finally listen to your brain, and your conscience, your brain, and your body all say, "Hey, look, it's time. It's time to go." And one more thing about the pain is there's one great quote by Seneca. I loved it. It said, "If pain was unbearable, uh, you die."
Yeah.
Yeah, like if it was
True.
unbearable,
Yeah.
you'd be dead.
True. True. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
oh, when you think about it like that, you're like, oh shit, like
Yeah.
maybe I can bear all of this, especially with understanding the difference between external stimuli response and the in between, right? So,
It's a testament, right? We hear it all the time. We are much stronger than we think. The human body. is an incredible creation, right? People have gotten their legs blown off, people have gotten um, pieces of them some missing, brain tumors, a cancer, all these crazy things that happen to us, and yet we still live, we still fight, we still survive to see another day, we still move on, right? And we heal ourselves in a lot of these cases. Um, so that being said, man, that's very true. The pain clearly was not enough. So is it the external pain, or is it our own homegrown internal pain that is what destroys us? Because we can deal with so much. So at the end of the day, we can only hope, right? That ourselves, that's what we create, that hope that we will be the best version of ourselves no matter what happens to us. No matter what happens to us, we remain solid in our core. We remain us, ourselves. We remain one, which is again what virtue is. Not changing, not swaying because of something that happened to you, but sticking to your ideals and standing tall.
Yeah, I think one thing I did want to talk about before we end this too, because I yesterday did a lot more writing for my novel, and, and the first part is pretty much a talking about why people go into suicide,
Mm,
and there's multiple reasons for that, but I think the deciding factor of the decision to kill yourself comes down to two things. The first thing is an identity crisis. So when you see these stories about suicide, you find an interesting pattern that all these people had a specific identity and then they lost it. So, for example, let's say Auschwitz prisoners. They thought themselves as fathers, they thought themselves as sons, they thought themselves as husbands. All that's taken away and they don't know what their identity is anymore. Olympic athletes, they have a high suicide rate after the Olympics. Why? Because their whole identity is Olympic runner, Olympic swimmer, Olympic athlete. Take that away. They have they're practically not real. And a great quote I heard from Analemki Dopamine Nation was, if you don't feel real, killing yourself seems inconsequential. It's like if you feel like you're not a real person, then what's the point in living? Because you're not real. So I think a lot of, and then I also think about this with teenagers as well. Oh, you always, well, I've heard throughout my life the hearsay of teenagers, especially boys, who get in a bad breakup or have a breakup and then kill themselves. For me, I look at that and it's like their identity was that boyfriend.
yeah.
And once they lost that, that came with a surge of pain. And for them, for my second point, is they thought it was unbearable. They thought that they wouldn't be able to cultivate a new identity for themselves or realize that the ego is fucking stupid and that are multiple identities, we're multiple diverse, and actually we're just interconnected with everyone. My relationship with you is completely different to my mom, to my other friends, to my sister, or to every single person I talk to, even strangers. I'm a different person because it's determined by what is talked about in the conversation and what life is happening. So to think that you have this one specific identity is silly. It's silly. And then on top of that, it's dangerous because exactly what happened to me is I didn't consciously tell myself I'm a writer, but for 7 years I wrote 3 hours a day, read 2 hours a day. So I unconsciously told my whole body, heart, and brain that I'm a writer. And then when that was gone from me, I had the identity crisis. I
Yeah, yeah,
had the pain that was swelling and I had the depression. I had the anxiety
yeah.
because now I don't even feel real anymore. And my body is like, fuck you. It's like, this is the wrong identity for you. You don't even understand that we're like a part of you. You don't even understand, you don't even take care of me. So I think, uh, I think that's what I'm trying to do with my book is trying to help people through that process of identity crisis and then understanding that that pain is actually an indicator for you to change.
A big one too, right? The body tells you so much that the mind doesn't.
Mhm.
Right. And it doesn't really need much time. The body will tell you pretty frankly. The mind is dangerous because we try to reason with ourselves all the time. But the body doesn't need reason. It will just tell you. Your nerves are the smartest things in your body because they know what to tell you and how to get it to you. It's only your mind that ignores it. Um, so what are you going to call your book, man?
I don't really- I've been going back and forth. I've been going back and forth on like the main idea of what I want it to be. I kind of want it to center around the people I was talking about, those people who generate hope,
Yeah.
energy. And what I find with them is they have a certain amount of knowledge, like wisdom, a certain amount of like implementation of that wisdom in their own life. So I wanted it something like to create a new term with it that talks about just the study of life. I know philosophy kind of does that, but I feel like it's so the connotation is academic now.
Right,
It's
right,
like you go to academia, you talk about a bunch of ideas, and you never implement any of them into the real world. It's like I no, I want you to think about have these
dude.
conversations, right?
Yeah,
But afterwards, implement them.
yeah.
So I kind of came up with my new word, philosophy, the study of living.
You said
So
live what? Philosophy?
yeah,
Hold on. How do you spell
the
that?
well, I made it up. So
Okay. Philosophy. Oh,
Vitalosphy, philosophy.
philosophy. Is that like a play on vitality and philosophy?
Yeah, so osophy is the study of, and vita is life, vitality, live,
It's
the
pretty good,
study
man.
of living.
Philosophy.
Yeah. And I think we need a new word besides philosophy.
I think so too. I think philosophy is a little dated. I think people get turned off from it pretty, I mean, it's good in its core. It's great.
Yes,
But,
yes.
but I think you're right. I think we need a modern approach to philosophy, a more millennial casual look at philosophy,
Mhm.
right?
And maybe I need a more casual term too.
I mean, but hey, it's a start. You're brainstorming. That's what it's
Yeah.
all about. You know what I mean? That'll ripple into other things.
Mhm. And what's interesting too is philosophy used to be like that during Marcus Aurelius's time. They used the Roman gods and Greek gods were more explanation of the universe,
Yeah.
but how to actually like live life was through philosophy. It was
Hmm.
until like Christianity, Judaism, Islam, where you kind of get both of them um, melded together.
Right. Yeah.
But now since like Nietzsche declared God is dead, which I mean, we clearly you don't believe that, which is
Right.
totally fine.
Yeah.
But I feel like the general atmosphere is like most people don't believe in God and they're trying to find something. I think it's a good now's the best time to implement some philosophy or some type of philosophy.
I think I'll say one last thing about that.
Hmm.
Remember, God is love,
Yes.
so love is dead.
Yeah.
Which that it makes a lot of sense, especially in this world, man. Love really is dead. Um, and I'm not talking about love, you love your wife type thing, you love your kids. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about love. I'm talking about love in the sense that selfishness and vanity and egotism being such a driving force of modern day society, right? Who looks the best? Who can have the most? Who's the richest person, right? What does that do at the end of the day? Because just when you die, would you can't bring it with you. You know what I'm saying? You can't bring it with you. But what you can remember, what you can make note of is how many people attend your funeral. How many people remember you from your deeds, bad or good.
So I don't want to be the last word, but
All
I will say
right.
this too.
You can have it, my friend. Absolutely. Because that's my love to you, Matt. All right. You can
Feel
have it.
so loved. But I had a girl ask me that at when dancing is are a lot of people gonna attend your funeral? And my automatic wor response was yes. And it's arrogant, whatever. But then I thought about it and I was like, you know what? I don't actually care how many people are at my funeral. What I care about is if my loved ones funeral.
Hmm.
So with what you just said, I'd look for more who cries at my funeral. How many people cry at your funeral? And I think that's a better, for me, determinator of how many people you actually impacted.
Yeah, that's good. I think you're right. Because again, people can just show up just to say, "Hey, I'm just gonna go be there," pay my respects. They don't really care though,
Hmm.
So it's true. The intention of it is important. 100%. So hey,
That's a good one.
a good thought for people, right? Who who do you think will be affected at your funeral, right? Who will cry for you? It's a good thing to think about, right? May make people change the way they do things because yeah, some of us, maybe not a lot, based on how we live our lives, but that's why life is great because we can change. So we can absolutely change. Now, man, I don't even know
Good.
how we were, I don't even know how long it was, but I think I'm gonna end it on there.
Oh
That was
yeah, I think it's a good spot. And
a
I
good
think we
spot.
talked we didn't talk about anything besides like hope we were gonna talk
Hey,
about.
yeah, man, that's what happens, man. We have an idea, and then the
We just
idea
wing it.
happens to be like only 5% of what we talk about. So it's all good. We love it. We love
But
it.
I think it's like I think when we talk, we do talk about in-depth things without even planning it.
Yeah,
So I think it's good.
I think so too. That's great. But we'll end it here, brother.
Okay. Hey,
Hey, you take it easy, man.